No, I was wearing green. It was winter. We were in Spain. And he says, yes, I remember it well. Everybody here in the studio is singing along. Sharon, why don't you give us a parting shot here? We're going to have to move to our next caller. Give us a parting shot for how people can use the concept of the first argument to heal their relationships.
Well, what I would say is don't ignore it. Invite it in. And most people ignore the first argument because they don't want to, ruin the relationship. But invite it in, look at it, evaluate it, see how it reminds you of something in childhood. And from there, you can stop all the rest of the arguments if you begin to understand the first one. It is truly a form of healing if you know that it's coming and you use it well.
Sharon Rivkin, I am so thrilled you're a part of my 300th show. This is the first time we've gone live in about 8 years, and this is working like a charm. So hugs and kisses to you, and next time you're in New York, come on down and we'll do a show together, okay?
Oh, absolutely, and thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, there we are. It's time to switch books. We have one more caller. I can't tell you how much fun this is. I don't know if I'm ever going back to live to tape. I think we're going to stick with live shows. I'm putting my crew on warning here. I'm going to prop up this book, and we're going to welcome my next guest. She was actually here last summer. She was here in the studio. Her name is Mary Marshall. She's gorgeous, as you'll see in a second when we put her picture up. And she wrote a book called Charm School for Guys. Mary Marshall, welcome back to Something to Talk About. How are you?
I'm great, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm wonderful. We're looking at your picture, and we've just slid over. You and I are on a split screen, darling. We're sharing the world right now. So I'm going to try and be in your pose. You look like you're in a yoga pose, so I'm putting my hands down. Okay. Hi, Mary.
I wish I was there.
I do, too. You're just jetting all over the place. How's the book going?
It's doing great. It's wonderful. I was recently at a conference full of scientists, if you can believe that, in a completely different capacity. But boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, you can easily get men started on the topic of etiquette and behaving properly, and it was just a hoot.
I bet it was. Well, everywhere you go, you bring such freshness and light, Mary. I want to talk about your book, but I first, before we run out of time, and we've got about 6.5 minutes left, I want to talk about your new segue into working with matchmakers. And you are a dating surrogate or a surrogate dater where you actually go on a date with a man or a woman and you sit down and you gauge their etiquette quotient. You watch them in action. You have dinner or lunch with them. You see, can they make small talk? What fork do they use? Are they polite? Are they groomed well? Tell me, how did you get into this? Sounds fascinating, Mary.
Well, after my book came out, I had matchmakers actually contact me because they saw such a need in their clients. And at first, of course, it was all about the men, but then, it became evident that we women aren't perfect either, and so we ultimately started addressing both sexes, and it's all about appeal. It's about creating appeal, not necessarily slapping hands and saying you're not doing this right, but just really kicking things up so that along with the great manners and the great appeal as far as everybody that, that they interact with on a date, it's about, just being interesting and fun and somebody that a person would want to go out on a second date with.
Well, Mary, I know on one of the websites where your book is featured, you are quoted, maybe it's your blog, you say, nice guys don't finish last, boring guys do.
It is so true. And that's we've been addressing this problem incorrectly for years. It's not nice. There's a difference between nice and boring, but so often that term is just, it's tossed out there. And it really is the guys that can't make conversation, the guys that don't, and women that don't talk about interesting things. It's just, like I said, it's the appeal thing. And so we've got to be appealing.
Mary, in your travels, and I know you travel widely on various kinds of business with John, your wonderful partner. We loved having him here, and we did a show with you on busy couples, and it was a great show. So thank you again for that in regards to John.
Anytime.
What do women tell you are the biggest grooming issues they have with men? Can you talk frankly to us for a few minutes about that? I know you will.
You want to know something?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, both seem to be concerned with the other's level of fitness. Now, if we're 20, 25 years old, that's not a big deal. For the most part, younger people are fit, and it's easier to be fit. But as we get older, we tend to just kind of let things go. And so oddly enough, it's the same complaint from either sex. You know, we like to be with people who are physically fit, and so that's one of the issues. And with that comes the way we dress. You know, posture issues, everything. We just handle everything in a more appealing manner, I think, if we feel good about our bodies. And so that is it in a nutshell.
When you teach in your surrogate dating travels, Mary, when you teach people to be polite, do you tell them, please don't take lengthy cell phone calls or any calls during a date? Is that part of your etiquette list?
Oh, holy smokes, girlfriend. I tell all of them, do not even bring your cell phone to the party, okay? This is not, it's not the third person on the date, so it needs to stay away from the table. And, you know, people are getting that. I mean, the younger kids, that's their generation. And so for them to turn it off, that is a really charming step. I mean, when you are interacting with a young person that gets it and understands, okay, not even on vibrate, just keep it in the purse, keep it in the coat pocket, away from the activity, it's all good. But yeah, that's a hurdle, that's a challenge, and people are getting better about it, believe it or not, as far as dating's concerned.
I love if they get better on it as far as riding on the train. I was on Amtrak a couple weeks ago, and a man with a very heavy accent was speaking at the top of his lungs to somebody on the cell. Anyway, that's another story. Thank God he wasn't on a date. He wouldn't have done well. What are men's objections? I know when a man goes out on a surrogate date with you, Mary, he's looking at a woman who's beautiful, charming, can make conversation, you're well-groomed, your posture is good, you're very attentive. Do men ever say to you, oh, if only the last 5 women I've dated could be like you, Mary Marshall? Do you ever get that?
Gosh. Aren't you funny? We all make it pretty clear right off the bat that this is not a date. It's just a professional meeting. So we don't go there. But thank you for the compliment.
Well, I was just wondering if they compare their other women to you. Do they ever say, "My God, the last woman I went out with was just a horror, yak 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 yak," and she had lipstick all over her face?
They don't necessarily compare to me anyway. But, you know, they do come up with issues that they're turned off by. I mean, one of the things, and this was a real surprise when I first started doing this, is that men don't necessarily love big cleavage staring them in the face. You know, they don't want too much, you know, too much of anything. Sex appeal.
Too much of anything. Subtle is good. Caricature is out, maybe?
Absolutely. Subtle is good. They like subtle, and they like to be able to use their imaginations. I'm always surprised that they're so vocal about that. They say, you know what, the skirt's too short, the blouse is too low. That's not what I'm looking for when I'm dating.
Interesting, Mary, because women are always saying that men are not looking them in the eyes, and maybe we know why.
You know, that could very well be, but it depends on the circumstances. Where are we? Are we looking for a relationship, or are we just looking for something else?
Mary, in one long sentence, we're down to a little less than a minute now. Just tell us what's next for Charm School for Guys. Are you going to write another book?
You know, I am going to write another book, but I got to tell you, the number one question that men are asking me is, where is the girls' book? And so the next book is for the women.
Wonderful. Coming out this year, I hope?
Absolutely, absolutely. 2009, it's on its way.
Wonderful. When are you coming back to New York? I want to have you on again.
Oh my gosh, you know, we are planning a trip towards the end of May, the first part of June, and I would love to come in. I'm sure I could drag John with me.
I think you should. We'll talk about the book even if it's not out, okay?
Sounds great.
Mary Marshall, it's been wonderful. I'm going to say sayonara to you until next time, and I'm going to have a little chat with my crew and go out on my first live show in 8 years. So thank you. Hugs and kisses to you, Mary. Bye-bye. Well, I want to say it's been an adventure. I've had a blast. What a way to celebrate the 300th episode of Something to Talk About. I'm as comfortable as though I were at WGBB with my headset on, so I think we're going to do more of these live shows. And we might even invite some people who are interested on Long Island if you want to call in and comment on some of the authors I have on the show. Contact me at bonnie@bonnietv.com, and we'll set up your calls for our next live show. I want to thank Pete and Pat and Colette for being in the studio. I want to thank Desi and Eric and George and Danny, my director, for their wonderful job. And Erica Bradley, you are the best. Erica is our technical director of Public Access TV. She's been working her buns off helping us put this show together. So Erica, we love you and couldn't have done it without you. We are Something to Talk About, number 300, a lot more to go. I'm Bonnie D. Graham.